Mother Nature has created a predator, which is the narcissist, so that they can eat us because we've gone too far. We are destroying the planet, and Mother Nature said, not today. And so here's a predator to eat you all. Hello, and welcome back to Bri Speaks podcast. I am your host, Bri Speaks, and today we are talking about narcissists. Narcissists as the apex predators of the world, if you will, but especially of the human race. And so why am I saying that narcissists may possibly save the world? Bri, narcissists are evil. They're bad. They're awful. How could they save the world? They want nothing but to help themselves. And you're right. You're absolutely right. But how is it that it might be a good thing? Listen, hey, I'm a silver lining kind of girl. So I'm going to look at the positives and see where we can get the positives out of anything. I say that narcissists are apex predators of the entire human race. And so let's start with what is an apex predator, right? An apex predator is an animal at the top of its food chain with no natural predators. These quote unquote top predators hunt other animals, but are not typically preyed upon by any other species. Examples include lions, orcas, and polar bears. And Donald Trump's, and Elon Musk's, and Peter Thiel's, and all of these super rich, usually white men. And I can go into, and well, in fact, and I'll tell you, they're usually white men because the natural order of things has been, perverted or subverted to the point where they've created these systems where the top of these systems are men, are usually white, are usually rich or coming from rich families, are, quote unquote Christian or religious of some sort. So these types of people, if you meet these archetypes that go with the standards of the social hierarchies that have been put in place, you will be at the top of the social food chain, if you will. And since these systems have been put in place, as one, they are narcissistic systems. If you haven't already, please go see my narcissistic social hierarchies of control video, and I'll explain all how patriarchy, racism, religion, and capitalism are all four narcissistic systems. And in order to get to the top of these systems, you have to be a narcissist yourself. And so because we have systems in place that literally select for narcissism, select for narcissist, it has created more narcissists. And because we have more and more narcissists, and narcissists are predators by just inherently, they feed on humans. They feed on human energy, human kindness, human empathy, human labor, human spirit, human joy, human sadness, human fear, human jealousy, human insecurity. They feed on everything that is the human existence. All a narcissist want is your control. They want to control, and they want your attention. They want your attention, and they want to control you. And okay, let me give you a definition of what is a narcissist, right? So a narcissist is a person with an inflated sense of importance, right? They think they are the most important thing literally the most important thing in the whole wide world. A deep need for excessive attention and admiration. If you ever talk to a narcissist, they're a good example, I will say, is someone in my family. I won't say which family member, but I was telling a person the story of how I got engaged to my husband. And this narcissistic person in my family interrupted me telling the story about how I got engaged when she wasn't even at the engagement, mind you, to tell the story herself, because she did not like that I was literally the center of attention at my wedding reception. That is their incessant need to be the center of attention is ridiculous. They will interrupt you telling a story about yourself if everyone is talking and looking at you because they want to be the center of attention. All right. So a narcissistic person is a person with an inflated sense of importance, a deep an excessive need for attention and admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Like they will do these things because they think they are the most important in the world, and then they will not care how it makes other people feel because they don't have empathy. They don't have the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes because, like, why would they do that? It's all about them. They are the main character. Okay, so that's a narcissist, and then that's an apex predator. So when you put those together, you get these people with no empathy who feels like they're the most important thing in the world and feel like they need all this attention. And then you put them into systems like capitalism, that in order to become a billionaire, you have to lie, cheat, steal, harm, and connive. In order to be, a capitalist, you have to not care about how other people are feeding their families. You have to not care about how you're not paying them enough. You have to not care about taking the profits and putting them in your own pockets. You have to want all of this attention, right? If you want to be, well, you don't have to, you don't have to want attention to be a billionaire, but like you're going to get attention if you are a billionaire. And it's like, so you want it in some sort of way. What is it? What patriarchy? If there's a man, it's always like there are always going to be more male narcissists than female narcissists. Not to say that there aren't going to be any women who are narcissists. Again, the person in my story I was just telling was a woman. And my first narcissistic abuser was a woman. So they certainly exist as women, but in general, because these systems uphold the patriarchy, saying like literally the system of patriarchy tells men you are the most important thing, you are the center of attention, the world is built for and revolves around you, and women are your helpmates of religion. From the beginning, it tells that women are just here to help you, man, help support men, help uplift men, like here to support men in achieving any of their goals. You're going to have more men who are narcissists. All right, so why do I feel like they are apex predators? Well, we talked about why they're apex predators, but why do I feel like they are here to save the world? All right, walk with me on this journey. You're going to come with me into my biology degree. My degree is not in biology, but biology was definitely one of the topics I had to take in order to get my degree. It's a science degree. So anyways, when you're looking at populations and population control, whenever you have a population, that population of organisms has to eat, right? And whenever you give a population of organisms a surplus of food, what happens? There is a population boom, right? So, okay, we're gonna get there. So, let's say there's a population of bees, and those bees get a whole bunch of honey, or people. Like when you give any organism a bunch of food, they're going to eat and they're going to reproduce. They're going to start flourishing. Like that energy is like, if there's an abundance of resources, of food specifically, they are going to eat, they're going to be happy, and they're going to reproduce. Because when people or animals feel like there is a lot of resources, they feel secure in their ability to feed their young. And not only that, they're also healthy enough themselves. Like it takes a certain amount of energy to be able to reproduce. Like if a woman loses too much weight, if she becomes underweight, and you see this a lot in like gymnasts, like especially gymnasts back in the day where it was frowned upon to be like a muscular gymnast. You had to be a very thin gymnast. Women, girls all over the place were like going through amenorrhea, which is like they would lose their periods. And become infertile, because if you are a woman and you don't have a certain amount of body fat, your body says, okay, we are in a period of starvation. You are not able to, like, reproduction is like the last thing on our mind. We are not reproducing. We can't even feed ourselves. How are we going to feed a child? So if there is a lot of food, your body is like, cool, great. We're well resourced. We're good to go. And then as a population, just the psychology is we have a lot of resources. We have a lot of food. So we have plenty to have young and be able to raise our young. Because there's a lot of food. Okay. So when there's a lot of food, population grows. And then so when you have a large population and that population is not an apex predator, that the thing that is the predator of that population will also begin to grow. Because if you have a population that has a lot of food and it grows, and that population is food for something else, the something else that eats it will also begin to grow, because now that other population, that predator population, has a lot of food to eat. So we just said that if there's a population that has a lot of food, what happens? There's a population boom. So just, just to walk with us in a good example, I always think about like if there is a lot of, let's say a lot of grass and there's been like, I don't know, a lot of rain, a lot of fertile leaves that have fallen on the ground. So there's like a lot of rich grass. And then the thing that eats that grass is, let's say deer, or like antelope. Antelope is good. And so the antelopes are eating all this grass. So there's lots and lots of antelope. Antelopes are popping up everywhere. And then who eats the antelopes? Lions, right? So the lions are now eating all these antelopes. Like, oh my God, now there's all these lions. And lions are, as we said earlier, an apex predator. So now you got all these lions. There's so many lions. And so there's like the lions grow. The population of lions is growing so much. They start to eat. Overeat the antelope. They're starting to eat all the antelope. Like there's just like, so there's not that many antelope to go around. And so the antelope population begins to shrink. And so now that there's less antelope to go around, the lady lions are like, it was really hard for me to get an antelope now. And like, I'm like, not that many antelopes. So they start to feel insecure about their food sources. They start to no longer reproduce. And so, or they reproduce less and less baby cubs every time. Or, if there's literally like so little antelope to the point where some of them are actually starving, they will pass away due to lack of food. So either one or the other, if it's a conscious decision or not, the lion population will now begin to shrink after they've eaten too many of the antelope. And so so that's one way. So the antelope population goes down. Or let's say there was like a drought or something, and the grass was no longer being watered, and so the grass starts to die out, and there's really no more grass for the antelope to eat. And so the grass starts to die out, and so the antelopes start to die out, and so there's less antelope, and so then the lions will start to die out. But then there's a hurricane or something. Now there's all this grass, and now there's all these antelope, and so now there's all these lions. But again, too many lions is always, since lions are the apex predator, the only thing that can stop the lions from growing out of control is literally themselves. They eat too many of the antelope, and so now there's not enough antelope, and the antelope are not reproducing because they're eating too many of them too quickly. And so naturally, just the lion population will begin to decrease. Right. So if you've been keeping up, and I've said that narcissists are apex predators, and narcissists eat regular humans, and not necessarily in a cannibalistic way, even though some of them certainly do eat humans. Like, listen, hey, the elite class, I would not put nothing by them. I've seen some of those videos. What show was that? It was an episode of Atlanta with Donald Glover. There was an episode where they were in Europe and they were at some sort of rich party and they were fed human hands because that is what the rich like to do. They like to eat and do things that are very taboo because they can buy anything in the world. They can buy, they literally have enough money to buy entire islands, they could buy whatever they want. So they want things that money can't buy, like a human life, like human flesh, and technically money can buy that too, but they want things that are rare or delicate or hard to access. They want experiences that other people cannot have because it is the quote unquote privilege or perk of having money. It's like you can get whatever you want, including the things that a normal person without money or without access to unlimited lawyers or access to blackmailing politicians or, all that stuff that rich people can do, that regular people can't do. So they want to take advantage of the fact that they can do all of that by doing things like eating people or, assaulting women and children. Jeffrey, we know what he enjoyed, like Trump, him too. He likes the girls. So anyways, rich people, they like weird stuff because they want things that are hard to access. And so that includes eating humans, like in a literal and then also in a metaphorical sense. They enjoy making the common folk do weird stuff. They like making us fight each other, even going back to Roman times, they had the people inside the Colosseum and they would just make people fight each other. And slavery times, they did the same thing. They made black men fight each other, literally fight to the death because for their own entertainment, just because that is what they like to do. So that is a way that narcissists are consuming humans, like the narcissists that are at the top of our food chains. And so because narcissists are controlling all of the world at this point, and they've eaten too many of us. The wealth gap and the wealth disparity between regular people and the wealthy, the rich, is so large. And this is across the globe, y'all. It's not just in America. We know in America, the top 10%, I want to say, own 90% of the wealth. And I know it's the top 1% own 60 or 50 or 60% of the wealth, but then the top 10% own 90% of all the wealth. And then the other 90% has 10% that we fight over, essentially. But that is reflective across the globe. Like the top 1% of rich people across the globe own, I want to say it's 60%. Let me look. What percent of global wealth is owned by the richest 1%? The top 1% of the world's population controls approximately 40 to 45% of the global wealth, according to various reports. Recent figures from 2025 says it's about 45%. Okay, so yeah, so 1% of the top richest people in the world, they own, it says 40 to 45% of wealth. And then this source from Oxfam International, it actually says, and this is one I think I was looking at, world's 1% own more wealth than 95% of humanity, as the shadow of global oligarchy hangs over UN General Assembly. Yeah, over 1/3 of the world's biggest 50 corporations are worth $13.3 trillion, now run by a billionaire or has a billionaire principal shareholder. So billionaires own all the richest companies. The top 1% has 95% of the world's, owns more wealth than the 95% of the world's population put together. There's a new Oxfam, OXFAM analysis of UBS data. I don't know what that is, but that's what I was saying, is that the richest people in the world, they own everything. They own everything. And because of that, though, because they literally have all of the resources, we as the bottom ninth, the bottom, again, this is like an artificial hierarchy based on money. We are not the bottom. We are all just humans. Although I do question the humanity of narcissists every single day. I will not lie. But yeah, so because they now own this, like all the lions, essentially. If you want to do the gazelle grass situation, you can either say they own all the grass, like they've taken all the grass for themselves to encircle and camp or whatever. Or you can say that like resources are the gazelles and they have taken all the gazelles. But it will make more sense for the analogy that if we are the gazelles and they're the lions, they have taken up all the grass and we have no grass left. And so our population, right, as the gazelles, is now shrinking. This is the first time, I think, don't quote me, but this is one of the first times in recent history for sure, and in all of human history, maybe, well, not all of human history, definitely since the agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago, which is when most of modern history is like recorded. So this is the first time in modern history that the human population has begun to shrink, especially in the West. It's not shrinking in, Africa or some places in the global South, but in the West, this is the first time it's been shrinking, especially rapidly. And it is because the narcissistic apex predators of the world, the billionaires, the oligarchs, they own everything and they have taken up all the resources. And so we as people don't feel psychologically safe to have children. And not only that, a lot of us don't have enough. Basically, we don't have enough to feed ourselves. We don't have enough to feed ourselves. And so we are struggling for our own survival. And why is that a good thing? That's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. But what is the largest cause of the extinction of different species across the globe? Agriculture. It is the production of food is why we are tearing down rainforests. It is why we are just killing off different species. And then also agriculture is the largest producer of greenhouse gases, of environmental harm writ large. Let me, what is the largest cause of environmental, because I don't want to get on YouTube and say the wrong things. So, all right. The main causes of environmental pollution are industrial activities, agriculture, and the burning of fossil fuels and for energy and transportation. So all of these things, industrial processes are factories and industries that put harmful chemicals and waste into the air. So that's consumerism. That's essentially consumerism. All the companies that are making things, making the cars, making the clothes, making the plastics, making the products, those companies are creating the most amount of harmful waste that goes into the air and destroys the environment, literally destroying the environment. Grok, all these AI companies, all these companies, these big factories are destroying the environment. And Number two, and or tied for number one, to my understanding, is agriculture. Like the way that they are clearing out all land so that they can have places for cows to graze, so they have places to grow corn, to grow wheat, to grow soy, to grow all this stuff, is the number two. And what are they doing with that? Like, it's food. Like, that is food. They are growing all this food and they are selling it, globally across the world. And that is causing more and more humans to be born. It is causing population booms of humans across the globe. And then guess what? The more humans there are, the more they have to create factories for consumerism, the more they have to plant more food, the more they have to degrade more land to make more food to feed these new humans. And then you got all these new humans, and guess what? You got to keep up with every time you have to keep up with the demand, you have to destroy more stuff, use more resources, destroy more species, more species go extinct. I don't know if y'all know, it's like, how many species go extinct per day? Hold on. Y'all, I should probably do all this research. How many species go extinct every day? 100 up to 150 species, based on the United Nations, to 200 species per day go extinct. And it's just like, that's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, it's just like, I don't even know how many species there are. But the fact that 150 of them are going extinct every single day, that is like, I'm sure a lot of that's like small insects. Like, this thing, I was going to say, I'm sure a lot of that is like small insects and bacteria. And that makes you feel like, oh, it's just like the little tiny animals, they don't really matter. They don't really, but it's like, they are the basis of the ecosystem. Like, the fact that we don't have, bees to pollinate, we're not going to have flowers because the bees aren't pollinating. The butterflies are dying out, like, if there are just tiny little insects, they do so much. They do so much work. They do so much for the world so much that is unseen. It's like a lot of unseen labor, the same way the patriarchy works women and makes us do unseen labor. But it's all very important work to keep our global ecosystems working, flowing, and intact. But they're all dying because we are killing them through industrialization and through farming and agriculture. And so, all that to say, since the apex predator narcissists are hoarding all the resources, humans are no longer reproducing, humans are no longer consuming, and the population of humans are going down. Actually, humans are the only, because we are humans before the rise of narcissists, humans themselves were the apex predators of the world, and they were the only population that never had the ebb and flow of a natural population. All throughout nature, there is that cycle of a lot of prey, a lot of predator. Eat too much prey, and then the predator goes down. It's like that cycle of like big and small, up and down, up and down. That's a very natural, sustainable cycle of life. Everything in life is a sustainable cycle of highs and lows, in order so that there's an average equilibrium. There's an average homeostasis of a ecosystem. It's a beautiful balance of yin and yang throughout all of nature. But humans are the only one who have learned, we actually don't need to let our people die. Like, oh my God, there's a drought. That's okay because we have created agriculture and we have stored all of this food for the winter. And so we don't have to pass away now. And I know that people feel like that's like, people are starving. People shouldn't have to starve. And it's like they shouldn't have to starve, but people don't realize that you have to allow a population to decrease. There is no biological organism in the world that only grows and never decreases, because guess what? That's cancer. Cancer is the only organism in the world that grows and grows and grows and doesn't stop. Because when something grows and grows and grows and doesn't stop, it's like it destroyed. Like, because okay, in my example, if let's say the the antelope, they became a big population, and then more and more lions grew. And instead of when they ate up all the antelope, instead of saying, "Dang, all the antelope are gone," and then their population starts to shrink, the lion said, we're going to go find more antelope. And so they moved, and then they found more antelope, and then they ate all those antelope. But those antelope, let's say they were being eaten by the hyenas. And so instead of saying our population will grow, we'll eat the food for the hyenas, from the hyenas. And now all the hyenas are dying, but there are a bunch of lions. And then after all those antelope are gone, and they're like, we don't want to let our population go down. We're just going to eat the hyenas too. And so now they're eating the hyenas. So now they got more food. So now there's more lions. And so now you got 3 times the amount of lions, and there are no antelope and no hyena. All right. And so instead of saying, okay, no, we ate all the food, we got to let our population shrink, the lion said, actually, no, we're not going to let our cubs die. We're going to go get some more food. And so they say we're going to cultivate now. We're going to make the grass grow here so that we can plant some hyena, and then we're going to kill off all the cheetah so the cheetah can't come and get our hyena, can't get our antelope, because we know that they want antelope, because they're going low on antelope, because we had actually went over there and ate their antelopes too. So now you starved out the cheetahs, you killed off the antelope, you started growing your own antelope, and you killed off the hyenas too. And now what? And guess what? Okay, so now you got to go kill off the jaguars because you want their hyena too. So now, if you keep up with the pattern, the only way that the lions can literally never have a decrease in population is if they kill every single other predator in the world, kill every single thing that is in their way, and then start planting grass so that they can grow more hyenas, so that they can make more hyenas, so that they can have all the hyena. They have to start destroying rainforests so that they have room to plant grass so that their hyena can graze, so that the hyena can keep growing and keep making more hyena so that the lions can keep eating. And that is what humans have done. It is, instead of, this is Mother Nature. Mother Nature says we have to decrease our population because there's not enough food and resources. And that's that. We have said, no, we are God. For all my religious people think that, we're not supposed to make decisions. We're not God. God doesn't, God, whatever. I don't know. Well, I do know, but it's hard to explain right now. But it is, we have chosen to be God and say, like, we will not die. We will not let our children die. We will not starve. We will not let our population decrease. Instead, we will kill every other species on this planet in order to ensure our survival. But guess what? The planet has a finite amount of resources. We can only go but so far. We can only take up but so much land. We can only kill but so many species until we start killing ourselves. Literally until cannibalism. Like, how many humans does the human species want before we have to quit? It's literally an unwinnable game to keep allowing ourselves to take up everything, eat everything, destroy everything for our own survival, for our own greater good. It's disgusting. And so that is why apex predators, whenever there's a lot of food, so there's so many humans, there's always going to be a predator that grows. That there's going to be a predator of a population that is growing so much, because there's so much of them. Mother Nature is going to create a predator to eat them, to shrink that population. And that is who narcissists are. Narcissists are eating and feeding off of all of us wonderful, kind, sweet, empathetic people who want to just ensure that everyone has enough food, want to ensure that everyone has their needs met, which they do. But there is a sustainable way for everyone to have their needs met while not overpopulating the planet and not over-resourcing the planet. But that's another video. But yeah, so Mother Nature has created a predator, which is the narcissist, so that they can eat us because we've gone too far. We are destroying the planet, and Mother Nature said, "Not today." And so here's a predator to eat you all, and that is the narcissist. Yeah, it's not a fun story. It's not a happy story, but I guess that's the silver lining of who they are. They are teaching us to use less, eat less, consume less, because that is not sustainable. And that is that. I hope you learned something from, a biological perspective today. I hope this was a, helpful but positive story, kind of. I'm not sure. But thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear more, you can always follow me on TikTok at Bri.Speaks. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, you can follow me on Spotify at Bri Speaks Podcast. And if you would like your own copy of my Narcissistic Hierarchies of Control, you can find a copy. You can purchase a copy for $10 very small and support your favorite creator. I don't know if I'm your favorite or not, but if you like me and you want to give me $10, please do buy my Narcissistic Social Hierarchies of Control PDF at free2adhd.com. That's FREETOADHD.com. Or you can just send me money on Cash App at Bri Speaks 2. That is BRISPEEAKS 2 on Cash App. All right, thanks. I thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.